All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our September member call. Pleased to be joined here today with Patty and Emanuele, who I will pass things over to very shortly. Before we get kicked off, I just want to go through a very quick introduction. This is just a quick snapshot of our team. We are a globally dispersed, fully remote team. We've got folks. I'm based in Canada. A lot of our team is based in the US. Ray spends a fair amount of time in Portugal. So if anybody has any questions about how to manage a dispersed team or remote team, we are certainly people who can help you with that. At conveners.org, we do our work in two main buckets. We have our membership community, which is a community of impact-focused, purpose-focused organizations and conveners. That can look like entrepreneur support organizations, professional leadership and coaching services, pretty much anyone or any organization who's passionate about bringing people together to accomplish some sort of positive change. And then we also have our advisory services, which is the sort of side of the organization where we help other organizations and large institutions with achieving their convening goals. Just a couple of our upcoming calls. Next week, we have our ethical content marketing workshop led by JB Media. And then our ecosystem call at the beginning of October. It's going to be an Ask Me Anything style call about global impact conveners. And we've got some folks from Opportunity Collaboration as well as Salzburg Global who'll be on that call with us. Both of these calls are open to anyone. There's a small fee for non-members to attend the masterclass next week. The October ecosystem call is free for anyone to attend. So please feel free to invite anyone from your networks. And so we'll just start with a very quick community connection activity. We have a smaller group who are actually here live today. So we will just sort of go around, we talked about wanting to have some sort of forward thinking towards the future for today's community connection. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what do you want more of in the next month and what do you want less of? I will, I guess, start since I wrote the question and have had some time to think about it, even though I haven't thought about it as much as I should have. But in the next month, I think I would say I want more time for myself and my family, and less time spent on things that get in the way of time with friends and with family. So just a little bit more selective about how I'm spending my time, I think, in the next month. And I will pass it over to Christine, if you don't mind.
I think what I would like more of in the next month is more contemplative time. Like I just went for a hike, and I'm doing a new program through my church, and so I really would like to focus on that. So carving out the time and making the time for that. I'd like less of the busy work and just dealing with the less firefighting. I think that's something I'm always asking for is less firefighting, but that's pretty much it.
Cool, thank you. Patty, what about you?
Sure. So the past few months have been a little chaotic with a bunch of transitions happening. I'll be able to expand on that a little bit more later, but what I want more of in the next month is less chaos and a little bit more stability with a number of things, which I anticipate will happen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. And Emanuele, what about you?
I just got back from 2 weddings in 8 days, so I'm completely looking forward to stability and boring routine and being able to have productive days without like nothing exceptional happening all the time. So this kind of moments in which you sit down and you get things done and you do not have 10,000 things distracting you all at once. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Nice. Yes, there's something to be said about having some boring days once in a while, I think. So without further ado, I'll pass things over to our guest sparks for today. We're joined here today by Patty with Bethesda Green and Emanuele, who is co-founder of Babele. They're going to be taking us through this discussion around selecting the right tools and platforms for your program. By all means, this is meant to be a participatory discussion. It's a small group today, but we can certainly have some conversation along the way. And with that, I will pass things over to you folks.
Manu, you want to kick us off?
Definitely. I would actually start perhaps with a short introduction of who we are. I think that's a good way to get started. So regarding myself, I used to work as innovation manager for Procter & Gamble in Paris until at some point I realized that I really wanted to dedicate my life running programs for social entrepreneurs. And we started running at the very beginning programs online because we thought that that would have been the future. And so we started organizing small programs for social entrepreneurs. And for the past 5 years, we've been managing a United Nations program on investment readiness, which is fully online. But the interesting thing is that we also developed a platform for managing such program online, and then we realized that we actually love running programs that are hybrid. And so we are in a moment right now in which we are trying to find the sweet spot between online and offline interaction. Back to you, Patty.
Great. Yeah, so my role at Bethesda Green, I am the director of the Be Green Business Program, where I oversee the Innovation Lab. And I've had the opportunity to really build that program over the past 4 years, supporting founders focused on environmental sustainability and sustainable food systems. We've been recognized nationally by both the Small Business Administration and the U.S. Department of Energy for some of the work that we've done. And in supporting founders and helping to just move the economy toward more of a sustainable economy here locally. I will mention also that, and this wasn't in my bio, but I've recently accepted a position to move to the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. So in that new role, I will be overseeing the county's innovation and entrepreneurial hub, which is very much from an ecosystem perspective, kind of looking at the entrepreneurial journey and identifying the resources that founders are able to tap into and find value in. So there's a lot of overlap with the work that I have been doing recently and the conversation that we're having here today. From an ecosystem perspective, I think this is going to be really, really cool, and the tools used to help bring it all together. So happy to be here. So Manu, I believe we were gonna kind of use the conversation around the things to consider when a program manager is piecing together the important elements of their program, even before we get into the topic around tools. And you had put together kind of a great collection of thoughts in the early days of the pandemic when programs were moving online and program managers were suddenly like, oh, I can't conduct classes in person anymore. And what do I do? And how do I keep my community pulling together? Do you kind of want to build on that a little bit?
Absolutely, thanks. The whole reflection, in 2020, let's say with the pandemic, many more programs, they found relevant to have a digital strategy compared to before because they were forced to intensify their activity online. And supplying our platform for other programs, then we noticed that many people, they were actually jumping on these tools without having a clear strategy in mind. And so we started creating first that article and then different training sessions that we're now doing with different programs to make sure that they understand what they really need or what they're trying to achieve online. And so I'll share quickly my screen so that we can quickly go through this framework that we usually explain to programs. So this is also the framework that we use for corporates for open innovation program, but the wording is kind of similar. And usually we start by setting up with clear goals. If it is a hybrid program, what's the goal of the online component? Is it making best practices available, fostering peer learning or collaboration, engaging external stakeholders, or increasing the quantity or quality of feedback that should be happening online? So it's really important to start with the goal, with the goal in mind, or with the end in mind. And once you have set up those goals, then you need to start looking at all the stakeholders that are involved in the program, which can be entrepreneurs, mentors, industry experts, investors, corporate partners. And for all these stakeholders, you always try to understand how these people, they create and capture value through the process and what are their motivators and constraints to be involved in the process. Because sometimes we tend to develop really hopeful user journeys that are very complex, but may not be realistic for these people to actually follow. And then we try to understand exactly what is the timeline for the kind of interaction that we're achieving, or what are the different type of cycles, and then we jump into the user journeys. So what are these different type of activities that we want to customize for the different stakeholders to be able to create value and capture value through the process? And there is one topic that we developed during this article that we wrote in 2020 that we call the minimum viable interaction, which means you can have a lot of things that you wish your stakeholders to be doing online across a variety of tools. But realistically, there are only a couple of those activities that are truly important. And if they do not happen, they would actually break the whole collaborative interaction within the community. And so we usually start by having a strong engagement on a few activities rather than just creating an ideal user journey with a bunch of different activities that you want people to do. And only when you achieve satisfactory results with those activities, you can think of scaling the number of activities that you can actually do on those online tools, because you always need to think that you're fighting against the user's resistance to jump on whatever type of tools they're not used to. And step 5, then we try always to build a holistic roadmap. Most of all, like in case it is an offline program, many offline programs, they have a very clear calendar of activities and workshop and meetings and coaching sessions that are going to be happening offline. But then the online component is always in a separate place, and having a holistic roadmap that explains what is going to be happening online and offline and via Zoom, etc., it brings clarity to those stakeholders regarding the different activities in the process, and it minimizes the uncertainty. And so this is what we realized with time is that the higher the uncertainty of what people should be doing online or offline, and then the higher the disengagement independently on the tool used. Of course, we track indicators, like any kind of engagement strategy you may come up with, it's full of assumption, and you can only improve it based on a data-driven decision. And then there should always be a facilitation strategy, meaning there is also a user journey for the facilitator in the program that should help organizing and coordinating the other user journeys of the other stakeholders involved in the program. And then this is also really important, which is we always try to run lean pilots, which is one person may say, but we only have 10 startups or 20 startups. So this is not a huge community. And still, whenever you create a user journey, you have several a risky hypothesis that is much easier to validate when you start piloting with a couple of users, to make sure that there are not bottlenecks, and to start validating the engagement model before you start scaling that community with additional users. And so this is important to do at the very beginning of the process. The last point is communication. Communication is king. Communication to make sure that everybody understood the plan, that the onboarding material is clear and to the point, and to make sure that there is communication to follow up with participants, to ensure their continuous involvement, and last, capturing ideas and feedback to continuously improve the engagement strategy.
Yeah, awesome. And, as that article that came out, and the timing of that was really useful because, we had to move all of the programming for Bethesda Green online. And that was really part of the time when I was doing a bunch of research on the various platforms that existed, and, trying to make sense in my own head how these tools fit together, and how do we create a valuable experience for the founders in our program, while at the same time also building out new programming, and trying to figure out how do we provide value to them as from a content perspective, and then from the actual implementation from an online platforms perspective. So for a little bit of context on that, when I joined Bethesda Green, the program that I was brought in to run was just an accelerator. And I don't say just an accelerator as in it was only an accelerator, but it was the only program we were running. And it was at the time more focused on idea stage companies rather than what's more traditionally known for accelerators now, where maybe they're trying to raise investment and really doing that product market fit. So the challenges that the founders were going through at that stage really lent themselves well to a lot more foundational courses and sorting out some of the details. You'd have your marketing, your business plan, your financial model, and you could kind of check things off as you went through. And over the years, we expanded our programming at the Innovation Lab to both support the accelerator, but also try and give a place where the mission-aligned founders that were in our community had a place to land, even if they weren't yet ready for the intensity of the accelerator. So we created an incubator program. And this was, it is a year-round program. We support founders. We really work with them at their own pace. And that, because it's not currently in a cohort model, some of the things that Manu even mentioned with the user journey and the benefit of having kind of specific timelines and deadlines for each thing is a little harder to track because you're working on a founder by founder level rather than a cohort model. We also support founders at later stages that are not as involved with the online curriculum because they just don't need that information at this point. The resources and the support that they need is much more in the form of, investors and introductions to corporate partners and developing those relationships and piloting different projects and stuff. So it's just not, you're not leaning on the curriculum in that same way. Or at least we're not doing that currently. So while I was kind of thinking about how we build out these programs and support the founders and really kind of expand our ability to connect with founders at different levels, the research that I was doing kind of, took me through a lot of options. The entrepreneurial ecosystem at a global level is just crazy busy right now. Those of you, here and watching later, like you guys are all involved in your own programs. You have tools that you use. Maybe it's just spreadsheets. Maybe it's Airtable. Maybe it's, Google and Dropbox, and you're kind of blending together all these tools. What I'm going to focus on today are just the 5 tools that I have sort of identified and that we either use in our program or that I've identified that may be useful for other program managers as you guys sort of consider your options. And then Manu, I think you're going to do a quick demo of Babele at the end, and we'll talk a little bit because that is the platform that we ended up using for the Innovation Lab. We've had some great success with it in some areas, we've had challenges with it in others. And so using some of this time to just talk about, what's really worked and where program managers can kind of think about, what might be right for you. So I'm just going to share this quick overview. This is very low on data. I'm just going to kind of talk my way through it a little bit. These are some of the key tools. So we're going to start with F6S. This is a platform that we use for our applications. I inherited it from my predecessors, so I admit I didn't spend a ton of time, looking up other options here. They're a global community. Right, F6S really has, a number of different ways to kind of pull in users, to let them know about opportunities that may be of interest to them. Just, and you can kind of see it here, like it's talent, it's jobs, it's deals. You can meet other startups. So founders can put their profile on the platform and they can say, all right, I'm interested in an accelerator that maybe starts in October, and they're able to kind of look through the schedule and see what fits for them. You have the ability to put keywords in. So in our case, climate tech, clean energy, circular economy, ag tech, food systems, things that for us are trying to really attract the folks that we want. The good is that it's a very clean, easy to use interface. I find the back end it's fairly straightforward. The team is responsive when you reach out and do want to talk to them. We don't pay anything for the service that we use for this, which is pretty great. They do have a lot of additional paid services. They'll do outreach for you. They'll do, recruitment for your programs if you want to. That, has a price point that if that's of interest to you, you can dig into. But it's easy to download, and then I pull the information down from the pipeline and just, sort it that way. We have found a number of our portfolio members through F6S. Others we end up accidentally attracting a lot of international companies. We don't currently work with international companies outside of our Global Gateway program with the state of Maryland. But, it's something where, the occasional risk is that they apply because they're like, oh, the accelerator is open, let me apply. But they're not mission aligned, they're not stage aligned. It's more just like, hey, I've got this thing, let me throw it in there. And so, that is a little problematic because we don't like to leave people hanging, but it's a little bit like, why are you making us read through your application? It's totally not relevant to our program. So that's, that's what you get when you're kind of working with sort of that large network and making your program available to others. I wanted to mention Abaca. This is a tool that was developed by Village Capital, which I imagine a number of you are quite familiar with. I really like this tool. I don't use it necessarily the way that VilCap probably designed it, where the founders are actually using it to connect with potential investors or finding partners that way. What I use it for is I have them kind of come in, take the assessment on the Abaca platform, and then because they're connected to our program through kind of a partnership that we have with VilCap for this effort, we're able to sort of see how a founder ranks themselves in each of these categories. And I see this is probably a little small on your end, but across the top, we have team, problem and vision, value proposition, product, market, business model, scale, and investor exit. And then down the left column here from the bottom up, it's your founding team, setting the vision, value proposition here, validating an investable market, profitable business model, moving beyond early adopters, product market fit, scaling up, and the exit is in sight. And the idea with this platform is that it's really helping you as a program manager to communicate with the founders where they can focus their energy to make sure that they're not missing key elements of their bigger picture before they start moving on to the next level of funding. So on the right-hand column here, you have the different levels of investments. You've got friends and family, personal credit here on the lower right. Then you move up to friends and family, or I guess another round of friends and family, then angel, friends and family. Then you're doing another round of angel, friends and family. Then you're getting into your first seed round, and then Series A, Series B, Series D. And what we find a lot is that, maybe a founder has, level 2 of setting the vision, right? They have personally experienced the problem. They understand what they're building, right? But they're only here, and that's cool. Then maybe they have here on the problem and vision category where they can not only explain how the solution exists, but how it will transform the industry. So they've accomplished a little bit more. So you can't see the colors here, but level 2 here, but level 4 here. And then maybe under the value prop, they are stuck down here on how they have a hypothesis for how they will solve this problem. However it pans out, but what we generally find is that founders are really strong in 1 or 2 or 3 of these categories. They're really early on in some of the others. And they need kind of a little bit of guidance about, well, what are the milestones that they need to achieve in order to kind of keep pushing the ball forward in each of these areas? Because you don't want to be really good in your understanding of the market, but really low on your business model because you have a great market, but you have no way of addressing that market. So making sure that founders are able to see the bigger picture. So we use this to develop their work plan, their roadmap for the next 6 months. And that helps a lot, especially through the accelerator program, for us to just be on the same page with them, and for them to in turn be on the same page with their mentors. So we're all kind of saying, like, these are the milestones that we're working toward. What are the resources you need to achieve that? And what's a success look like? So we know once you've reached that goal. So I do recommend poking around at this. It's something where founders can use it on their own as well. But if you do want it through a program element, then reaching out to the VilCap team and chatting with them, I think is worth doing. LeanStack came up in my research. It's not something that we ended up using as a program, but I did want to draw attention to it. What I really liked about the LeanStack was that it's very focused on really using the sprint, the agile methodology, but the sprint focus of 2-week efforts and doing those and getting results and then figuring out what worked, what didn't, making those changes and continuing to grow, and really looking at the growth of your startup effort from the perspective of these 2-week sprints. And what LeanStack has done, and they've modified this. So back when I was doing this research, the ideation and a lot of the foundation curriculum that they have was available for free. And they would, in some ways, they had accelerator programs that would use the foundation as part of the application process. And so founders would go through all of that training and then sort of come out the other end and be like, all right, let's see if this is a fit for our program. So they break it down. They have, it's a number of weeks. This kind of breaks into, I think this first one is, 2 to 3 months. And this one, the ideation is like 3 to 9 months. And then acceleration is another 12 or 24 months or something like that. And then it grows. So it's useful, I think, if, if what you're looking for from a program is just really tight schedules and really wanting to, help the founders kind of take that lean startup methodology and apply it to their work. This is useful. I did find that the price point was beyond what we could afford. They were charging per mentor, which was not in alignment with us, where we have, 30, 40 mentors that support our founders through each cohort. But they do tend to focus a little bit more on the, like maybe a mentor supports 5 different companies and that is their role. And so, again, each program has their own structure. And so exploring what's out there, is this right for what you're doing? But I found the quality of the curriculum quite high. You can customize the curriculum, or at least you could when I was looking at it. And so that may be worth exploring too. The next one is called Founder Track. This is a new platform, relatively new. It's been out for about a year and a half. And they're based in Maryland, which is why it's sort of come onto my radar. Founder Track, and we will be piloting this for a program that we're doing outside of our traditional Innovation Lab programming in the coming months. What I like about Founder Track is that they really break so there is this pre-identified set of milestones that the founders who are experienced entrepreneurs themselves have sort of put together, and you can kind of see, you can't see the details too much here, but you can see the rows, and each of these dots are individual milestones. And the way the process works for this is that in order to continue moving past it, so like say row 2, you see this green dot right here, the founder is going to essentially submit materials to the Founder Track platform that says, this is the work that I've done to prove that I've achieved this milestone. That then gets submitted and reviewed by individuals, the team of Founder Track, who say, yes, you know what, you have done this, whatever that may be, customer research, the draft of your financial model, whatever. Or they send it back and they say, hey, you've started this, but like, I think, you really need to do a little bit more work. Here's a mentor in your network that can specifically assist you with this effort. So there's, from a program management standpoint, it would be our mentors kind of coming in, but the mentors would be categorized specifically to help with particular milestones in each of these rows. And so you don't have, by contrast, for our accelerator, we build mentor teams. We have 3 to 4 mentors who are dedicated mentors for a given company, and we provide a variety of perspectives on that mentor team. So we may have someone coming from finance, someone coming from marketing and communications. We maybe have someone who has specific industry experience in the field, and maybe some, corporate, an understanding about potential corporate pilots that founder may be able to benefit from, and maybe an HR perspective. But they're coming together and they're all sort of helping the founder really think about how they do what they do. The Founder Track model is more about aligning the model of a mentor specifically with that skill set that the founder needs at that particular time. So again, it's, as you think about how your program is structured, how do you want your founders to engage with your mentors and your mentors to engage with your founders? What's the outcome? Do you like the idea of sort of a group mentorship? Do you like the idea of just saying, like, this is the piece of information that the founder needs, and get them past this so they can move on? I don't think there's like a wrong way necessarily, because there's really, in what we've been doing here and what I've been studying, I think there's a lot of value to all the approaches. And different founders at different stages need different things. So really giving thought to how does this fit with your program? and the outcomes that you want and the user experience for each of your stakeholders. What I did not find about this particular platform is it doesn't seem to really give a lot of communication within cohorts. But again, I'm going to be piloting it later this fall, and we'll sort of have more information on that. So the final one is where we ended up landing. We did select the Babele platform to use for our innovation lab. Manu and his team have been really helpful in helping to customize a lot of the capacity of the platform to meet our needs and hopefully the needs of other users. And I'm going to let him kind of, build on this and talk about this. And we'll dive in as he presents different elements of the platform. I'll share my experience and, really what worked and areas that I think, we definitely have space to continue improving the experience. So, all right, Manu, back to you.
Thank you. Thanks for the overview. So I'm going to be sharing my screen then. Can you please let me know when you see something?
I see it.
Yep, we see it.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So the main idea is that whenever we create a new accelerator program or a new incubator or open innovation program, so we create this kind of workspace in the platform. And the main idea is that I belong to many workspaces and to many programs, but it depends on how many programs you're actually managing. And every program has the classic place where we communicate, as a wall, where we communicate with participants and where we have a live feed. And there is a repository with all the different stakeholders that we organize for the program, and we organize in circles and roles. And then we can easily organize a meeting with those stakeholders through the platform, and the platform gives us an indication of the time zone of those stakeholders or send messages that are delivered as emails. And then there is a repository of all the different startups that are involved in that program, and they're all organized depending on different sustainable development goals and the stage of development or industry or additional keywords that can be customized every time. Besides that, there is a place where we organize all the different events for that program, or we can track the meetings that different participants in the program are organizing, for example, with mentors. And every time at those meetings, they synchronize with whatever calendar application people are using. And we make sure that people can also embed the Zoom link in case that's a virtual event. Besides that, there are areas for discussions that can be created to communicate publicly or privately between different stakeholders in the program. There is a repository or a knowledge hub with different resources that are shared with the different stakeholders in the program. So this can be files of documents or links and so on. And there is a place where all the different requests from the startups and the entrepreneur, they converge in one place, and a semantic algorithm simply recommends the right experts for those requests that the startup posts. And as administrator, what we do is that we customize the program framework for every program. And so instead of imposing the same framework, every program decides what are the type of milestones that they would want to customize for their entrepreneurs. So what you see here on the left side of the screen, it's personalized for every program. And it is possible to customize every time the learning content with different videos and learning materials is provided to the startups, as well as the different activities that the startup should be working on. And beyond that, so when you enter in any startup profile, so this kind of framework, it gets included within each startup profile. And so it's possible to click on the different milestone that the startup is completing and get into the detail of what the entrepreneur has completed or what the mentor has provided as feedback after the coaching session. And the startup, of course, have their own data room with additional information they can share, place for discussion, network and requests. And besides that, we have a place where we usually track the progress of the different companies against the program framework that was created, so that they have the possibility to enter into the details of how these companies are progressing and what is the this kind of interaction with different stakeholders that are working with that, entrepreneurs. And there is also the possibility to track KPIs and metrics that we define for the different startups in the program. And ultimately, we have the possibility to simply create an application for recruiting participants in which, like similarly to a Google form, you can create all the different questions that you want to ask participants in order to choose which one will actually join the program. And then it's simply possible to assign the evaluators that should be reviewing those applications, and it's possible to for the different evaluators to provide their evaluation and compare their evaluation with that of other evaluators, and the scheduling a meeting with these different participants before they get accepted in the program. And so there are very many functionalities, and what we usually try to explain to people is that the goal is not to actually try to leverage everything. Every program has a specific goal of what they are trying to achieve. And the worst case scenario is treating those kind of tools like a Facebook group in which you simply invite people and you see a lot of functionalities and you think, hopefully people are going to be using something. This is when nothing happens. So that's why, I came back to what I was saying before, it's really important to have the user journey in mind and to have the specific use case depending on the program. And then there may be functionalities that are not leveraged immediately, and that's absolutely fine. That is not a problem at all. But the important thing is to create a strong use case before complexifying the user journey with additional activities that you want the participants to do during the program.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And so when we started, we really tried to ensure that kind of the business model, the program structure was really in place first. When we started, there was the functionality of the platform was different. And so, with the new functionality, I know I'll be able to kind of tweak things moving forward. But what we had in the past, because I didn't want our founders going through 1, 2, 3, 4, in that order, because they were coming in with different things that they've already achieved. And sometimes the founders are like, I need access to this information, and I don't want to have to do all of this to get to that information. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't, blocking access to that material. And so having the full curriculum available was a choice that we made. And I wouldn't, I think that it's not necessarily the best approach to all programs. Some founders found it very overwhelming. Other founders are like, thank you for making all of this information available, and I can just pick and choose what I need. So again, really thinking about how do you want to structure your program, and how are you tracking the various success at each stage? So are you setting deadlines for them to do certain things? If you don't set deadlines, do you care if the founder doesn't actually do what you're asking them to do? Because at the end of the day, it's their company, and they may or may not actually do the work. So another area that we found interesting was the role that mentors would play. Some of them really jumped in and were excited to use the platform and communicate with the founders on the platform, and others are like, I'm going to email you. And then they would just email you. And then so as much as I would try to say, hey, if you guys can keep the communication in the platform, that really allows our team to kind of just keep an eye on things and understand what's happening. And, when things are in your inbox, yes, you can CC me, but at the end of the day, I'm not looking there always for the material. And if I can try and have it all in one place, that would be really helpful. And I'd say that, less than half actually did use the platform for that. So where we ended up landing is that our founders lean on it for the curriculum. They lean on it for the materials. It is the go-to place where they're able to access the information. We have video recordings on there. We have resources available. Sometimes the founders will post questions to say, hey, other founders and mentors, I have questions about this, can you help? And there'll be responses that come from that. So that can be really beneficial. But I will say that, the usage drops off substantially when we're not in the middle of an accelerator program. the incubator members kind of use it when they think about it, or I guide them and I say, hey, there's some really great resources here for you to consider based on today's conversation. And then maybe they'll use it, but it really is a matter of like bringing the horse to water and then hoping that they drink. But at the end of the day, you can't force that. So to, Manu's point that he mentioned earlier, that minimum viable engagement or interaction, I think was the word you used, right? Like figuring out like what really does matter to you as a program manager for your founders to do at any given stage of the program, and sort of put your energy behind that. And really, like, if you can't, so you're going to find the laggards and you're going to find others that are like, I read the whole curriculum in the first week. Okay, more power to you. How much of it you internalized, I don't know, but I'm glad you did it. And so trying to kind of just balance all of those, and then, going back to like, if your goal is to support the founders, like, are you doing that? And what's the best way to do that? So I want to be sensitive of time and make sure that we leave time for Q&A and anything else. I know we have a small group, but I don't know, what do you guys want to chat about? What's working for you? Do you know of other programs or platforms that you want to recommend?
So I have a quick question for F6S, the first platform you provided. Can you talk specifically how to use it? Is it just for at the application process?
So we only use it for the application process. I mean, there is sort of the benefit of some additional promotion on there because we have a live application. It appears in search results that founders may do to kind of just figure out what's around for them, because we can do keywords for our program, climate tech, circular economy, whatnot. And so that'll appear. So when when a founder submits an application, they'll start the application. All right, let me backtrack. We can submit the questions that we want in an application. So I have questions for our amplifier, our incubator, and soon our accelerator program.
Okay.
And those can be totally customized. Those can kind of go into detail for as much as you want. So a while back, there was a program called the Global Accelerator Learning Initiative. And I took a lot of the questions that they had through their kind of, the survey that they would take of the founders that went through our program. Because for the first couple of years, I was with Bethesda Green. It was a two-step process because the Galley survey was part of it. And then we'd have our own application. And so I was able to combine the two once the Galley program ended, because I found a lot of it really useful. Like why, what are the impact components that you want to have in your business? And, does that align with our mission and all that fun stuff? So the customization of the application on F6S, I think, is where we use it. And then I'm able to see who starts applications, when they start it. I can read their drafts even before they're able to really complete everything, which I find valuable, especially when it's like someone's really mission aligned and they're local and I think they're going to finish it, but they haven't quite submitted it yet. And I can just ping them and be like, hey, Christine, it looked like you started this application. Can I answer any questions for you? Do you want to schedule a call? And then, kind of get that prospecting effort in place. Because I think if we wait for a complete application, that can be a little tricky. And I think we lose some folks. So it all comes into a pipeline. I can sort by the different programs that we're recruiting for. I can download, and then I can manipulate in Excel. But I like to manipulate in Excel. It allows me to just do different things with it. But the back end of F6S, you don't have to do that. You can keep it in there, put notes, assign different reviewers, all that stuff to do.
Cool.
But yeah, it's a pretty robust system. To the extent that, Babele is now having that application, I haven't really experimented with that yet. So I don't know about the flow from, perspectives and, creating a venture and, what that process looks like. I don't know, Manu, if you want to speak to that.
For the pitch event that I'm working on, that might be a perfect solution. Since it's
right,
free
exactly.
We're not going to an accelerator necessarily. It's going to a pitch kind of, and then push.
Well, and that's kind of what we're going to use the founder track to pilot for, because it will be a pitch competition and it's outside of the realm of our innovation lab current curriculum. So because it's going to be a whole different batch of material and the process is going to be different. I think we're going to try to pilot it there just to sort of see that flow and what that looks like. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then really quick, one more, like Abaca, when do you have who does the Abaca assessment? Is it people that you've already selected for the program?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a part of the application process?
It's one of the first things they do when they kick off the program. So we do that really in the early days of the conversations about their roadmap. Like, what do you guys want the next 6 months of your, business growth to look like? Going through the Abaca assessment just allows us to be on this, like, use the same language when it comes to identifying the milestones.
Okay.
Kind of make that just clear, because it's the milestones, it's resources, time, money, because everyone's just like, well, I just want to launch my website. And it's like, well, what does launching your website actually achieve? Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like you've demonstrated that you have a website, cool, but like, does it show that you have your business model done? Does it show that you have your ability to collect payments? Like, are you testing something? Like, all of the things that could come with that. And it's not so much the what, but like the why behind it, and what is that milestone actually telling you?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know, Manu, did we cover everything you wanted to chat about on this? I feel like the Babele platform just has so much to offer, but we're not supposed to make it a sales pitch for Babele, so
no.
about that.
for me, like the important topic, I think you mentioned something fundamental, which is when people engage on this kind of platforms. And so like the majority of programs, because of how programs are actually funded, they often lack a strategy for the alumni engagement. And so like the programs that actually invest on companies, because as you know, like many accelerators right now, they're simply a pipeline for an investment fund that then is going to bring money to some of the entrepreneurs. Then in that case, when you have shares on a company, it becomes easy to have the engagement for the founders because he has to report on progress and performance over time. But the majority of programs, they're not investing. And many times they do not have perhaps the capacity to have a thorough engagement also when those people become alumni. And what I noticed that it works because, you can't solve the problem that you do not have a team of people that can engage with an ever-growing number of alumni. But what I noticed that works is defining like some kind of very easy to manage process that actually works for the alumni. I give you an example. I bring, for example, once per year, a group of investors that wants to actually look some of the companies that we have in one of the programs. And so I contact everybody saying, perhaps this is not relevant for everybody, but if some of you is interested in renewing their pitch deck and getting some feedback and getting in touch with some founders, this is a good opportunity, and we're going to be inviting the investors on this date. So please let us know if you want to participate. Let us know, please try to improve your pitch deck by this date. And so not everybody is going to be interested. So there are some alumni that are simply going to disappear and they're never going to get back, and that's absolutely fine. But some people that find this opportunity is relevant, they will take the opportunity and they will re-engage for that occasion. Same thing whenever you want to bring a corporate that is interested in sourcing solutions for their ESG targets, or simply if you say once per month, hey guys, we're still providing you a network of experts that can actually provide feedback to your challenges. So this is a reminder that if you have a request, you can post it. And so I don't think it's very difficult to have the same kind of controlled interaction as you have it in the program, because the program has a beginning and an end, and you know exactly what is going to be happening during the program. After the program ends, you can just be creative in the way that you keep providing opportunities for people to engage, because you're giving them an opportunity to still capture value from what you're offering. And perhaps in return, you can keep capturing some KPIs, so what's the long-term impact that the program had in the first place.
Well, and that's just such an important step for, trying to report out to your stakeholders and your funders, right? Because it often gets missed. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that. So yeah, Colin, what do you think? Getting close to the hour.
Yeah, I think so. I think if that's all the questions we have here, I think we can give everybody a couple minutes back. Just want to say a quick thank you to everyone for joining and those of you watching the recording, and especially a thank you to Patty and to Emanuele for taking time out of your schedules to be with us today and lead us in the discussion. If anybody has questions after the fact, wants to get in touch with anyone who's spoken on the call, please feel free to reach out to us and we can get you in touch. Otherwise, hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thank you. This was fun.